Welcome in to DRF Daily, DRF Sportsbooks, somewhat daily sports betting live stream coming at you every single Thursday, Friday. We had some technical difficulties this Saturday and Sunday, but we're coming back every Monday. We got the technical difficulties worked out, so don't even fret. We'll be back next weekend breaking down college slate Saturday, NFL slate Sunday, but today we're breaking down the Monday night football game. We have our best bet for the game, and we have a few props that we're targeting as well that personally I think can give you a lot of value. There's a lot of weird things that go on with this game. Russell Wilson going from Seattle. If you can't tell behind me there, I do have a slight Seattle bias. I've been born and raised a Seahawks fan, so take that with a grain of salt. But I also know this team really well. I follow everything, so I like to think I have a little bit of a inside look on the team. But we'll see how that pans out with my picks today and what my player props are that I'm targeting as well. Before we get there, we have to, of course, go through all of our housekeeping stuff. Follow us wherever you are on social media. We're right there with you. We're on Twitter at DRF Sportsbook. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, everywhere that is social media. We're right there with you. Follow us at DRF Sportsbook. And while you're doing all of that, check us out, drf.com/sports. If you're into horse racing, drf.com is also an awesome option. But if you want some sports action and sports data as well, head on over to drf.com/sports. There you can sign up for free. That's right. FREE, that spells free. Sports data coming at you every single day. drf.com/sports. Sign up for free in the top right. You'll get all squared away there. And while you're doing that, subscribe to our newsletter. It comes out every Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, giving out the best angles, the best betting angles, driven by DRF Sports Pro data. It's some of the best data out there. It's nailing picks left and right. So head on over, subscribe to that newsletter, get free picks in your inbox every morning, every Thursday. Well, Thursday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday morning, and Monday afternoon as well. So do all of that and you'll win some money. Before we dive into today's game, I think it's worth taking a moment to recap what happened yesterday. Four underdogs won outright. Some of them we probably didn't even expect. Giants, what? Bears against the Trey Lance. I was told the Trey Lance-led 49ers were going to go to the Super Bowl. They can't even beat a monsoon in the Chicago Bears. Bears won, a few other underdogs won, and a underdog tied. We have our first tie of the 2022 season. Texans, Colts. I don't know if you guys are extremely active on social media like I am, but apparently in all the teams in the AFC South don't have a win, and two of them played each other. Quite crazy. Another news, NFC West, all teams lost except for the Seahawks. So somehow the Seahawks woke up this morning atop the standings in the NFC West. Probably the last time they'll be atop the standings this season. Kickers couldn't kick. That was the big takeaway. A lot of missed field goals. Pittsburgh, Bengals, lots and lots of missed field goals. Texans, Colts, more missed field goals. That's why that one ended in a tie. I mean, Steelers, Bengals, darn near close, ended in a tie. We almost had two ties on the same day in the same slate to start the season. Would have been absolutely insane. Cowboys, they played in Sunday night last night. Their offense looked lethargic. Their defense looked burned. Not a good showing for the Cowboys. And to make matters worse, they lost Dak Prescott, at least for the next couple of weeks. He did something to his hand. Sounds somewhat similar to what Russell Wilson did last season to his hand. Not sure if it's the same exact thing, but looked quite similar. Hit his thumb on, I think it was Shaq Barrett's hand, and jammed it or something. He's going to have hand surgery. He's out for a couple of weeks. Unsure what that Cowboys team is going to do this season. Steelers, they did beat the Bengals, another outright dog that won. But in the process, in overtime, they lost TJ Watt. They fear it's a torn pec. He may miss the rest of the season. So two big-time injuries in the NFL in week one. Then you look in the AFC East, Dolphins, Patriots, Mike McDaniel gets his first ever win as a coach against Bill Belichick. And Tua is now 4-0 against the Hoodie in his career. Quite crazy. We commented on the Giants winning. They took down the Titans, a comeback fourth quarter. Looked like all was lost when Daniel Jones threw that interception late. He then gets the ball back one more time, drives the team down the field. Saquon Barkley has a resurgence. They score the touchdown. Could have kicked the field goal, could kick the extra point to go into OT. Instead, they go for two. Absolutely bonkers. Love the Brian Daboll era, how it is starting down there in New York, or I guess I should say in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And of course, the Chiefs, man, do they look dominant. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman. It doesn't matter who Patrick Mahomes is throwing to. Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Does not matter. Patrick Mahomes is an absolute monster. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Fantasy owners rejoice. He had himself a fantastic game. So a little bit of a recap from Sunday. It was a fantastic day of football, but it's not over. Week 1 is not over. It started last Thursday. It's ending tonight, and I'm a little sad. Today's going to be a roller coaster of emotions for me, like I said, as a Seahawks fan. They are, of course, the NFL pulling the strings like they do. They're starting their season against the Denver Broncos, and folks, I'm nervous. As a Seahawks fan, I'm nervous. Russell Wilson's revenge is going to come hard. It's going to come fast, and he is going to be out for a vengeance. Reports have surfaced over the last few weeks that for the last 4 years, there's been animosity there. Russell Wilson has been getting angry at this Seahawks front office and coaching staff for the last 4 years. He finally left. He's with Nathaniel Hackett, who's going to open up this offense and let Russ cook in ways that Pete Carroll could never imagine, in ways Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer and Shane Waldron could never have imagined. And now he's paired up over there in Denver. He has a really solid supporting cast in Jerry Jeudy, in KJ Hamler, in Javonte Williams. So the Broncos, they're poised to take on the Seahawks in Seattle at Lumen Field. Seahawks are plus 6.5. The total is set at 44. Now, it's hard to get a real read on this game when it comes to the data in this one. Our DRF Sports Pro data uses a lot of stats from last season. And if you use stats from last season, the Seahawks are by far the favorite team. However, our sports data engine hasn't fully caught up to the fact that Russell Wilson is no longer on the Seahawks, so a lot of those stats should actually be going to the Broncos. If we went off of last season's stats entirely, the Seahawks should be more like minus 11, and the edge is on them not only to cover, but to win outright. Now, I'm not saying that's happening because that is not happening. However, I think there is a strong possibility that the Seahawks cover this one tonight. At plus 6.5, the Broncos are going to have a lot of difficulty getting up and keeping it up above 7. I think Seattle keeps this one close. They're known to keep games close. And during the Wilson era, they were 8-4 against the spread as home underdogs. They were also 48, 36, and 2 overall against the spread during the Russell Wilson era. And I know this is now the Geno Smith post-Russ era, so some things change a little bit. But, I mean, Pete Carroll in his career is 50-29 against the spread as an underdog. Pete Carroll might not win a lot as an underdog, but man, does he know how to keep it close. And his style of football tends to keep these games closer. And with the running back room that the Seahawks have in Kenneth Walker, Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, those guys are going to bleed the clock. They're going to play pretty solid defense. The only question mark is the corners, but they're young, they're exciting. And at the end of last season, they came on pretty strong. And Sidney Jones returns, Tariq Woolen's there, Kobe Bryant. I think Michael Jackson made the, yes, you heard that right, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jackson. I think they made the final cuts as well. So the defense isn't going to be necessarily terrible. Quandre Diggs is back there. Jamal Adams, almost said Jamal Woods for some reason. Front seven's not terrible. I don't think the Seahawks team is as bad as we remember from last season. If we're looking at DVOA from Football Outsiders, they were the 9th best team in the NFL last year, all things considered. So I think it's going to be a close game. Pete Carroll's style of offense lends itself to a more grinded out. They're going to try and play ball control. They're going to try and boa constrict their way to it. So I do think the money line minus 260 provides no value, but if you want to bet the outright winner, I think it's the Broncos for sure. But I think the Seahawks can keep this one close. And the fact that they'd have to win by a full touchdown, that makes me lean the Seahawks a little bit. If you look over here, the line has actually gone up in favor of the Broncos. Back when this line opened last month, a month ago to the day, it was Denver -5, and they've creeped up. They hit 7 a few times. It's come back down in the last 24 hours, back to 6.5. If it pops back up to 7, snatch that up. And only 29% of the public is on Seattle. Look, blowouts don't happen often in the NFL. This would have to be a blowout for the Broncos to cover. And I know you're thinking it's only 7 points, but if it's 14, I think the Seahawks score a garbage time touchdown and cover. Give me Seahawks plus 6.5 to cover and look respectable compared to what a lot of people think the Seahawks will be this season. Now, the fun part of this live stream, on Mondays, we're going to break down some fun player props that I think have a solid chance at hitting. Look, DK domination. Geno Smith and DK Metcalf in their games played last season were fantastic combined. Look at this from Corbin K. Smith at Corbin Smith NFL. Geno Smith, when targeting DK last season, went 17 of 21, 251 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a above 150 passer rating. That's just 4 games. That's just 21 targets. But man, did they have a connection. I think Tyler Lockett's production will decline just a little bit, but DK's is going to explode. Russ struggled getting him the ball when there was 2 high safeties, but with the amount of running that will be happening in Seattle tonight, I don't think the Broncos can afford playing much too high safeties, so they're going to have to bring a safety down to the box, and that is prime time for DK Metcalf to have himself a day. I'm going over 56.5 yards. I think he gets that in the first half, and he's going to score a touchdown. You could go first touchdown scorer. You could go last touchdown scorer. I'm not playing with fire on those. I think anytime touchdown score at plus 175 is some really good value, and I'm going DK Metcalf to score a touchdown tonight for the Seahawks. If you want to sprinkle another one, maybe Rashad Penny will also score a touchdown. But Geno Smith and DK Metcalf have an awesome connection, and I think it's worth betting on that to kind of ignite tonight, despite the Seahawks probably running the ball a lot. Another prop, Javonte Williams to outrush Rashad Penny is plus 110. Look, Rashad Penny's probably the better running back in tonight's game. He came on extremely well last season and had a historic end to the year. I think the highest yards per carry in NFL history for those who qualify. And he's finally lived up to his first-round draft pick status, right? Seattle got him in the first round. People were questioning why. He was banged up with injuries the first 2-3 years of his career, and last year finally healthy, and he showed why the Seahawks were infatuated with him so much that they took him in the first round. Now they drafted Kenneth Walker this season from Michigan State. They still have DJ Dallas and Travis Homer, and Pete Carroll has made it seem like this is going to be a running back by committee type of approach, with Rashad taking the lion's share of the carries. But Javonte Williams isn't in as deep as a running back room as Rashad Penny is, and I think Rashad might get 50, 60 yards, but I think Kenneth Walker's going to poach some yards from him. Travis Homer might poach some. DJ Dallas might poach some. So give me Javonte Williams to outrush Rashad Penny at plus 110. If this was any other number lower, if this was minus 110, like a pick'em almost, I would stay away from it entirely. But at plus 110, I think it gives you some solid value. A running back that will probably be the feature back going up against a running back that has to split carries with 2 or 3 other guys. Give me Javonte Williams to outrush Rashad Penny tonight in Monday Night Football. And last, but certainly not least, it's Russ's return. Russ has had a history of playing exceptionally well in the first couple of weeks of an NFL season, going back to 2020 when it was let Russ cook, he cooked, and then he kind of fell off. And then in 2021, he was on an MVP pace before getting mallet finger and missing a few weeks. And then his return, he came back a little bit too soon. If you ask me, he looked bad for the first couple of games. And then the last 2-3 games of the season, he looked like Russ of old. And when he was out there, he was one of the best quarterbacks if you throw out his return too early. If you take the first couple of weeks of the season, the last couple of weeks, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So He comes back now. He's going up against a questionable Seahawks secondary. The two safeties, really solid. Jamal Adams will probably play more in the box. Quandre Diggs, more of that center field type role. But I think Russell Wilson will take advantage of Sidney Jones, Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, Michael Jackson, and any other, Trey Brown, any other cornerback they put out there. The only problem is wide receivers aren't extremely deep for the Broncos. So maybe the Seattle's secondary does all right. But with all that being said, I think he goes over 249.5 yards with ease. 250 yards is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Also at DRF Sportsbook, there's a prop over 22 and or I guess the over-under set at 22.5 completions. I contemplated that one, but looking at his stats from last year, he only had over 22 completions in a game a few times. Granted, he's probably going to be throwing it like 40 times today because Nathaniel Hackett has made it clear that he wants to help Russ cook and they're going to work together. And I also think it's going to be a close game. And with it being a close game, I think Russell will have more throwing opportunities. So maybe that's one you also target. If you're in Iowa and you want to bet with DRF Sportsbook, head on over, maybe play with over 22.5 completions. But I think for sure he's going over 249.5 yards. I'm a big time fan in over props. So give me over 249.5 yards for Russell Wilson. Now, let's do a quick recap of what we talked about today on DRF Daily. Boom, here's our best bets. Starting things off, think the Seahawks cover today. +6.5, +7, depending on which sportsbook you're using. At DRF Sportsbook, it's Seahawks +6.5. I love that. If it goes to +6, maybe not as much because you might get that push. If it's +5.5, stay away. I think 6.5 to 7, 7.5 is the prime spot for that number. Now some player props. DK Metcalf over 56.5 yards. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Give me that every time. And I think he's going to score a touchdown tonight at +175. Might as well take a flyer on that bet as well. Russell Wilson over 249.5 yards. Russell Wilson's going to cook. He normally cooks in the first week of seasons. Give me that. And Javonte Williams to outrush Rashad Penny at +110. Rashad Penny will probably be not getting, he'll have some of his attempts, some of his yards taken from him by Kenneth Walker, by DJ Dallas, by that running back by committee approach that Seattle's going to deploy tonight. Whereas Javonte Williams, I think, is going to be the feature back. So Javonte Williams to outrush Rashad Penny. I think that's a fun one to take a flyer on at +110. You can double your money and have some fun tonight and buy some drinks for Thursday Night Football. So thank you so much for tuning in to DRF Daily. We'll be back Thursday. We will be back Thursday. Follow along at DRF Sportsbook to keep up to date with all the latest odds, trends, news, betting angles, everything like that is happening at DRF Sportsbook. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere that's social media, we're there as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back Thursday. Hopefully we have a perfect night. If we have a perfect night, man, are we making some money. Y'all have a wonderful Monday, and pray for me as the Seahawks have to face off against the Hall of Fame quarterback they traded. So that's going to be a fun time. See ya.